Welcome to the next edition of Sweet Decklist. I got 5 O's or other type of tournament results. Today I got 5 decks to talk about. So each of them I think are featuring brand new cards from the new set. So if you like this series, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe, hit that notification alert for future videos. We're on our way to 2,000 subs. Let's get there together. Let's get into these deck lists and discuss. So first we have a Sultai Lumery combo deck. This is the deck that is featuring the new Altanax. Not really the say its name, so it's not trying to do that kind of shenanigans. But we do have some new some Into the Flood Maw as a way to balance any kind of hate spell. Make a main board. Splunking to enable the infinite loop. I'm assuming there's the port down here, which allows you to recycle this Lumery. Then mills your deck out eventually. So that is the combo. So you should be able to infinitely do that. Your deck is milled. You have this Cobra plus Nissa to produce mana through the cycles plus the lands ETB untapped. We have Deluge as a way to find our pieces. Altanac as a way to get lands from our graveyard back into play, which I'm assuming that is why this card is being used. And then you have Aftermath Analyst as a way to fill up our yard a little bit. Later on, we can sack it, get those lands back. We have, for removal spells, we have 3 Deluge. It looks like 3 Fatal Pushes. So. And of course, we also could loop this Festering Glutch as a way to just ping our opponent out of the game. So sideboard, we do have some more Into the Flood Maws because it's kind of just a catch-all bounce effect to make sure the hate pieces are gone. 2 Swan Songs to counter our enchantments, artifacts, stuff like that. Giving a 2/2 doesn't matter. Back to Nature because Incarnation is everywhere. Plus Bogles. Calling Ritual also for Bogles and also against the Ritual or aggro matchups like Rakdos Prowess and stuff. We have 3 Disputes for the control matchup. Another Fatal Push for aggro. 2 Thought Distortions for combo, as well as Disputes for combo, and plus control. We have 1 Grasp as a way to kill white-based creatures or potentially mono green. You kind of want to answer the Kiora, or you want to answer the Trailblazer in mono green to stop the card draw and to stop the combo going off. So that's very important there. That is the Sultai Landfall combo for Pioneer. Let's get into the next list. So moving up the rank of spiciness, we have this Overlords deck, which I will probably play for a video for the YouTube people that join the YouTube. So look for that in the future. I tested a little bit on stream. It's not the exact build, but of course it was, since Carriette is not on Arena, that was pretty much the only change I made. But I will probably test it again for a video. Now what's sweet about this is you could use the Zur to turn on the Overlords. All 3 we're basically playing 11 copies of Overlords that we could either animate with Zur, or we could animate the Leyline Bindings after we remove something from our opponent's side of the board. We do have a Nowhere to Run, because you also could animate that, and plus it stops Ward and Hexproof, which is kind of nice against Bogles. Then we have our 2 Caverns, so that way we can name Avatar and make sure our Overlords resolve. Sadly, the Zur does not have any overlapping creature types with our Overlords, but you kind of have to deal with that. 2 Flicker of the Fate to blink our Overlords, and then they come back in, get another ETB trigger, start attacking with them right away. Next, we have 4 Up the Beanstalks, because curving up the Beanstalk into an Overlord is kind of insane. It's not necessarily overly amazing, but it is a very good line, especially against grindier matchups. Being able to draw a card and get the value of either draw 2, discard a card, or ramp into your other Overlords is a good deal. We have 4 pushes to go for the throats for a little bit of a spot removal against aggro decks, along with our Nowhere to Run and Edict. Sideboard, 3 Dovin's Vetoes for the control matchup and combo, where you kind of want to just counter the like ultimatum or the counter spells for your Overlord cycle and removal. We have a 1 Moonlight is nice against Transmog. 3 High Noons as a way to fight through Phoenix, green, and also potentially stuff like Lotus Field like that. 1 Heartless Act for a little additional removal, and again something like Demons, you could bring it in and take the counters off of the the 4-drop 6/6 and make them lose. 2 knockout blows for aggro. 2 flankers as a way for a little bit of graveyard hate plus scrying life gain against matchups where they don't have Monstrous Rage, because that's a very big blowout. 1 Path of Peril for aggro. 1 Heal-as Intervention, good against artifacts and enchantments, and a Thought Distortion for control and combo, especially probably more so against control, where we kind of struggle a little bit. Is definitely, I think, a better matchup against control than something like Incarnation, because we have a high amount of threats and ways to attack our opponent. Incarnation, I think, is a lot slower, but once it gets to 7-drop, against most decks that are like aggro and stuff, it's kind of game over. But most of the time, like control could fight through that and answer it, and you're kind of stuck into you get pigeonholed into a bad position. This deck is all about just casting the Overlords, keeping them around, and timing your threats perfectly against control and stuff like that to bridge that matchup. Plus, Overlord of the Flood Pits also is pretty reasonable into control. A little bit of extra card advantage goes a long way there. So that is the next list we had to talk about. Let's get into the next. Through PayPal, I'm offering for $20 play your deck through League. Also give you an article about how to improve the list, and as well as some sideboard guides in very particular matchups. If you want to check out, the link is in the description. Now let's get back into the video. So next on my list is this weird Gruul Aggro Shell. Now it's only Gruul in the sense that we have Destructive Reveille in the sideboard for burn, which actually is really good right now. So hopefully they put that in the Masters, Pioneer Masters for Arena, because especially with these Overlords, it's kind of nice to have something that you could answer an Overlord and burn their face. So that's kind of nice. But main board wise, we have 4 of the lizard from the last set. A little bit of pinging to make sure we can get our opponent down. Plus, we can always grow it a little bit bigger. We have 4 and 4 on the Eidolon of Great Revel and the Razorkin Needlehead. These are 2 cards that I kind of want to try together in Mono Red Devotion, but this deck is not a Devotion shell for some reason. I mean, I would think it would be cool. And they both kind of synergize with the 3 copies of the O'Hare and Axel, so that's kind of nice. Instead of taking 1 when they draw a card, take 4. Instead of taking 2 when Eidolon, you cast a spell, you take 4. And then same thing with Ferocidon. They'll take 4, so that's kind of sweet when they never creature ETBs. Can't gain life. Then we have Mage Bane Lizard for the Phoenix matchup in the main board, so that pushes that matchup in a pretty good, reasonable position. We have 3 Chain Whirlers to answer elves, so they're small threats like that. 4 Kamanos as a way to Kamano into a 2-drop, which gets a counter, which should be pretty reasonable. 4 Hazards, because, why not, right? I mean, it's a tap land. Still mana, so we can still make sure we can hit our curves. 3 Screaming Nemesis has a little bit more anti-life gain hate, so this deck should be pretty reasonable into Angels. 4 Chandras for the grindier matchups, like Control, and black-based strategies, where the +1 and basically pseudo draw a card is kind of nice there. In the sideboard, we have 2 Volleys for Shredders and Spirits. We have 2 Scorching Shots for stuff like Sheoldreds, medium-sized toughness threats. Like I said, Reveille is pretty nice, especially against Indibogles, and stuff like the Incarnation deck. 4 Leyline Combustion in case we face a deck heavy amounts of removal. We can probably just cut back on like Mage Bane Lizard there, because it's not necessary in those matchups. Go up those. We have 3 Chandra's Defeat for the Rakdos Prowess decks and Gruul Prowess, any of those kind of decks where they are hyper aggressive. So that's kind of nice there. And so I still think this would be kind of sweet as a Nick Those deck, but I guess it doesn't have to be, right? Because even with Leylanic Combustion, that's 2 free devotion. So that is Gruul, but really mono red aggro for Pioneer. Let's get into the next list. So another deck that I am simultaneously, as recording of this, trying to acquire all the cards for Arena. I will probably try to also play this for additional content behind the paywall, just to play it, test it out, see how this deck functions, see if there is a room for improvement. How busted is this deck? I kind of just want to find out more things about decks that I feature in these slots, because I do want to actively play these decks. So what's kind of sweet about this deck, we have a little bit of the desert sub theme with the green blade. We have pseudo ramp for 1-drops with Grazer and Fungus. So we should be able to ramp into our lookouts and our green blades. And those lands work towards our turtle. Because once we have 10 lands, our creatures get +2/+2. So that's really nice. We have 4 of the frogs. That's a way to tap down their thing, or maybe tap down our own thing to draw some cards. So that's kind of nice. You get to tap down your Fungus and then immediately sack it and ramp. So that's kind of sweet, actually, a little synergy. Then we have 4 of the Paw Patch formation. It does kill a Atraxa or enchantments, like also in Incarnation. All else fails, it is just a redraw plus a food token. So that's kind of, it's not terrible by any means. Like I said, we have pseudo deserts and pseudo amount of like that kind of stuff with Palin's Arid Archway. So we should be able to hopefully get this green blade online. Sideboard, though, we do have some Ghost Vacuums. I'm not really sure if this deck actively should want these. It's not like we're really a crime deck. Even though we do commit some crimes with Fading Hope and Blue Sun Zenith or Twilight. But yeah, we have 4 Ether Gus as a way to fight through mono green. Potentially some red decks like Rakdos Prowess. It's kind of nice to be able just to put their creature that basically when that dies flings at you, just put that on top of their library or at the bottom, depending what they want to do. But 3 Mystical Disputes for the control matchup. Disdainful Stroke, also good against control. Ultimatum for Lotus Field, kind of basically anything. Back to Nature is really good, like I said, against Incarnation, Bogles. So it has a lot of actual value right now. So, like I said, this is one of the decks I'm actively trying to acquire on Arena. I don't know if I had to make any adjustments if any of these cards are not currently on Arena, but I think for the most part this deck is on Arena. So I'm going to try to get it and play it when I acquire all the cards. I forgot, but there is a Treasure Cruise and a negate down here. For some reason there's a random Treasure Cruise, which I guess makes a little sense. It's just a busted card, and it's just a recall, some like to say. But yeah, that is the Simic Rampish deck. So, all else fails, you're going to get a little bit of a kind of a eye roll when you play this deck, because if you lead off with any kind of like Botanical Sanctum into a Grazer, people are just going to think you're on freaking Lotus Field. They're going to give you an eye roll. And it turns out you're on a very sweet deck. So, let's get into the last list and discuss. I am now offering Patreon and Locals content exclusive. It includes sideboard guides, budget guides, exclusive videos, as well as other types of content. If you want to check out the link, it's in the description. Now, let's get back into the video. So last on my list is Orof Blink for Pioneer. This deck is playing both of the black and the white Overlords, and you're just trying to blink them with Flicker of Fate, Parting Gust, Scroll Shift, pretty nice ways. Plus, you might even be able to do it with, no, that's Creature. So Charming Prince doesn't work, but Charming Prince does work with Flesh Gorger as the additional copies on turn 3 that you can get down and make it a 7/5. We have a couple Vanishing Verse in the main, a little bit of target removal. We have Discard in the main with 4th Thoughtseize +2 Duress and 2 more on the board. It's kind of nice. For a little bit of interaction, like I said, we have our 2 verses, 4 Fatal Pushes. Pretty cheap removal there. We could also reanimate our Overlords after we mill them over with our Black Overlord with Rite of the Moths. So that's a nice little synergy. Backup plan, we have a couple Tobies and a Combat Thresher. Pretty okay to reanimate a Combat Thresher, but Toby is just kind of cool. So, you know, that's pretty nice. We have 3 Liliana the Veils, because Control is one of the most played decks right now, so it's nice to have a card that's actively good into Control. Sideboard, we do have 4 Liliana the Voids for the Phoenix and Fang matchup. 2 Get Lost, kind of just a good against Incarnation, stuff like that, where they do have enchantments. Oath of Nissa, I'm not really sure what that one's for. To be honest, I mean, it could just be a okayish removal spell that you could Orof Blink. But my issue with that is, like, if you're facing aggro, that's kind of slow. So I'm not really sure what matchup you're wanting to bring in a 3-drop burn spell against. I do get you could blink it, but at the same time, like, are you really wanting an Oath of Nissa? Like, is it better than a Duress? I guess, maybe. But I'd rather just bring in the Portable Holes and the Ray of Enfeeblement and the Get Lost first. So I do kind of wonder if Oath of Nissa is a little bit overkill when it comes to removal. But yeah, I do think we have a decent amount of options against Practice Prowess, other aggressive strategies, but also still contributing and hating on decks that, like Phoenix and Fang, without actually sabotaging our own graveyard, because we do play Rite of the Moth, so that's pretty nice. But overall, I like this list, and weirdly enough, this is the only list that I've seen competitively win with Cave of the Frost Dragon. So that must mean this entire deck compensates for this card. I'm kidding, of course, I'm just joking. But, it's kind of cool. Let me know down in the comment section which one of these decks is your favorite. Because we do have 3 and 2, so we are playing a lot of the creature lands, which makes a lot of sense. Because we need to close out the game. Like I said, let me know down in the comment section which ones are your favorites, and the ones that get the most likes, I'll try to prioritize for the channel. And until next time, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. Shout out to all my supporters, and if you want to see any other content from me, check out either one of these 2 videos and playlist. And I'll talk to you soon.